to the second day of Futures and Options. My name is Joseph Rabu Martinez. I'm a guest researcher at SALT, organizing a program, an ongoing program project called One Day Everything Will Be Free. So this is the second day of Futures and Options. Özgür Uçkan teaches, publishes, and consults on subjects relating to knowledge economy, network economy, innovation economy, creative industries, urban economics, information design and management, and communication design at various universities. His recent book, published in 2011, is titled Wikileaks, Welcome to the New World Order. And his talk this evening is titled Big Brother versus Little Brothers. His presentation will be followed by a presentation from Caleb Waldorf, and another presentation from Matteo Pasquinelli. Thank you very much.
Hi, welcome. I will present you today an idea I developed in my recent book, Wikileaks, Welcome to the New World Order. This little brother versus big brothers. And also I want to credit Deniz Şener. He will be soon with us because this idea we developed together. Then just start. In 4 years, up to from the 2008 up to now, it seems the world turns faster and faster and faster. A kind of paradigm shift happens, and in each signs of shift, there is a strong presence of internet, networking, etc. Just remember some. The global economic crisis is very important. I will not enter in detail, but it's just start a kind of transformation. We are not in the one-side world or one-pole world. A kind of multiplicity happen and arrive upon us, and change the global game of economy, social movements, and etc. And after that, 2009, and with Iran elections was so important. Just we saw the power of social media, especially Twitter. The dissidents came to us with their tweets and YouTube, their videos, etc. Then the whole country, Iran, became transparent to us. And after that, 2010, Wikileaks came. Wikileaks started in 2006, and it leaked a lot of important documents. But it became a kind of global phenomena with collateral murder video. It was a video an American helicopter took with their camera embedded it. And we saw a lot of people, as 8 or 10 or something, killed by this helicopter, and 2 of them was Reuters journalists. And after that, it came Iraq and Afghan warlords. Then it was the most massive leak in the history. And just after that, it was Cablegate. Cablegate was the cables between the United States international embassies and ministries and etc. And it was very interesting. Just after that, spy files revealed internal relationships of global intelligence industry, security industry, and now it's Stratfor. Global intelligence files just we follow. And at the same time, in 2011, Arab Spring came us. In my knowledge, Arthur Kroger was one of the first to recall this Arab Spring with a reference to Prague Spring. And a lot of things happen. Tunisia comes first, after that Egypt, now Syria, and it's going on, and Libya, and Bahrain, and Yemen, etc. Just one note: I don't consider Libya and Syria as an Arab world, Arab Spring movement. It's much more difficult to define us for this thing. But kind of the people came to the sun of the history. It was very impressive. And at the same time, 2000 now, Los Ignidatos, named after Stephen Hess's little book, Endinyevu, happened. Greece, Spain, Israel, even here a little bit, and London, and etc. It was very interesting. We followed it. And just after that, as the global crisis boom at the center and go to the periphery, and this revolt boom at periphery came to the center and occupy Wall Street, occupy the world, occupy everything, even occupy your mind, your library, your book, your artwork, etc. It's occupy thing. It became a very important metaphor, and it's not metaphor. Also, it's a very real consequences. And I found genius this slogan. We are 99%. I think it will be. It became historical slogan. And just after that, SOPA, PIPA, ACTA, etc. These copyright lobbies regulations came out, and January 18th it was a global internet strike, kind of blackout. And it killed SOPA and PIPA. And just after that was now it's March, and Black March, a kind of boycott against the copyright lobbies, and a lot of movements, a lot of protests in European Union countries against ACTA. And ACTA just they took back and sent to La Haye. And then we just win 2 years. And of course there is a lot of threat to the internet, to all these movements and etc. Just look a little bit. For example, Putin, Sarkozy, etc. Call the United Nations a kind of new international telecommunication union reglement. It's very complicated. I will not enter in detail, but it's a kind of United Nations govern, manage the internet, ICANN, Internet Society, Internet Task Force, etc. Then through United Nations, this governments will govern the internet. It's a very important thing. And ACTA, PIPA, etc. I already talked about. Hadopi, for example, French three-strike-out law. It's against a lot of European Union regulations. Digital Millennium Copyright Act, RIA, mainstream media, music, movie, publishing industries. There's an ongoing battle between this old economy stuff and the new economy stuff. And as NDA, for example, is a very important regulation in the United States, National Defense Authorization Act. It's kind of expands United States regulations up to global. It's a very important threat. And all this surveillance, censorship, filtering, eavesdropping, access controlling, etc. is very important. As Wikileaks last spy files revealed to us, for example, DPI, Deep Packet Inspection technology, the nation states and corporations use to eavesdropping us, and also to manage networks. It's a very interesting technology. And for example, we suspect Egyptians shut down the internet with this technology, furnished by American-Israeli firm called Narus, etc. And tactical GPS tracking, the Trojans, passive surveillance, analyzing source pairs, ADSL interceptions, data retention, etc. etc. is huge. And this global security and intelligence industry is very interesting. There's a lot of companies we know very well, like Nokia, Siemens Networks, Alcatel-Lucent, Blue Coat, Cambridge Consultants, and etc. It's also very interesting to look at deeper and deeper this thing. And the last big threat is not like now, but I think in 2 years or 3 years, this neo-corporatism trend in the internet, like information monopolies, like Google, like Facebook, like Twitter, we use a lot, and I think we will see the other phases of this global trend. And also, for example, Shell, Nabucco, Gazprom, Mobile go through the partnership with Google to get some frequencies and turning YouTube global TV channel and etc. It's a very complicated thing. Then there is a lot of threats too. And also I will put a kind of historical note with this 4 year and past. This 2011 and 2012 reminds me two other historical periods. It's 1848 and 1871, like the year of revolution and springs of people, and Paris Commune. Paris Commune, it was 1848. It was very interesting date, and it began in France and go to up to 50 countries. It was very powerful, and there's a lot of similarities with 2011. And also, 5 factors are involved. It's very interesting. The widespread dissatisfaction with the political leadership, as now. The demand for more participation and democracy. The demands of the working class. The upsurge of nationalism. And finally, the regrouping of the reactionary forces based in royalty, aristocracy, the army, and peasants. And also it was the year the Communist Manifesto was published. Engels said something very familiar to us. He said, what is true of London, it is true of Manchester, Birmingham, Leeds, is true of all great towns. Everywhere barbarous indifference, hard egotism on the one hand, and nameless misery on the other. Everywhere social welfare, every man's house in state of siege, everywhere reciprocal plundering under the protection of the law, and all so shameless, so openly evolved that one shrinks before the consequences of social state as they manifest themselves undiscussed, and can only wonder that the whole crazy fabric still hangs together. Of course, the words could be easily pronounced today, with one exception. The whole crazy fabric which hangs together our social state is no more. And also Paris Commune, it was very, very important period. And especially the ideas of Paris Commune make possible a lot of things, like October Revolution, like a lot of things. Then new springtime came up last in 2011, and the people are on the stage of the history. Then the rules of global game, especially after this big economic crisis, totally changed. We just discussed this changement, And we set the rules of global games. Changing in this game, governments and multinational corporations are not the only players anymore. New and unsolicited players enter into the game. There are new and powerful players of information in the game, presented by Wikileaks, for example. They expose the dirty secrets of power spots, subverting the corporate and industrial media order, bypassing them, breaking the barriers of information circulation, and more importantly, the people is again in the game. We will remember Arab Spring as a very powerful moment in the history in which, after a long period, the people's entering to the historical stage unexpectedly and, in particular, unsolicitedly. These new powers, of course, are closely related to the networking technologies, particularly the Internet. People now have new powers, coming together and disband very quickly, showing unpredictable patterns of behavior through decentralized organizational process, rendering internal and external communication unstoppable, creating global support for their local actions, influencing global public opinion with their global communication capabilities, and creating an unprecedented pressure mechanism on their governments. And above all, rendering countries transparent to the world by destroying walls of oppression, like in Egypt or Tunisia, now in Syria, etc. And I will speak kind of theoretical references, some points to explain this profound change. The first one, Bruce Sterling said in '94. It's always, I use always this paragraph. The words community and communication have the same root. Wherever you put a communications network, you put a community as well. As whenever you take away that network, confiscate it, outlaw it, crash it, raise its price beyond affordability, then you hurt the community. And it's totally normal. For example, in Turkey, there's a very powerful movement against internet censorship. It's not like other kind of movements. The common is totally different, etc. It's because of that. And also, 96, John Perry Barlow, founder of Electronic Frontier Foundation, wrote a Cyberspace Independence Declaration. It's interesting because Anonymous just republished it and opened it to the contribution of everybody. Just now, 1 month before. He said, governments of the industrial world, you weary giants of flesh and steel, I come from cyberspace, the new hall of mind. On behalf of the future, I ask you of the past to leave us alone. You are not welcome among us. You have no sovereignty where we gather. And my first point, theoretical point, is a book called The Starfish and Spider of Ori Brafman and Rock Backstone. It's a very interesting book. I recommend you read. And he explained the spider and the starfish as like this. Most of us know that a spider is a creature with 8 legs coming out of a central body. With a magnifying glass, we can see that a spider also has a teeny head and 8 eyes. If you chop off the spider's head, it dies. It could maybe survive without a leg or 2, and could possibly even stand to lose a couple of eyes. But it certainly couldn't survive without its head. At first glance, a starfish is similar to a spider in appearance. Like the spider, the starfish appears to have a bunch of legs coming out of a central body. But that's where the similarities end. See, the starfish is Tom Nevin's kind of animal. It's decentralized. With a spider, what you see pretty much what you get. A body is a body, a head's a head, and a leg's a leg. But starfishes are very different. The starfish doesn't have a head. Its central body isn't even in charge. In fact, the major organs are replicated throughout each and every arm. If you cut the starfish in half, you will be in for surprise, the animal won't die, and pretty soon you will have 2 starfish to deal with. And also, to explain this metaphor, the writers use the conquistador and Apache example. And by the 1680s, the Spanish forces seems unstoppable. With the winds of victory at their backs, they headed north and encountered the Apaches. The Spanish lost. They lost to a people who at first seems primitive. Unlike the Aztecs and the Incas, the Apaches hadn't put up a single pyramid, paved a single highway, or even built a town to speak of. More important for the conquistadors than pyramids or highways, the Apaches also had no gold. So instead of pledging, the Spanish tried to turn these people into Catholic farmers by forcing them to adopt an agrarian lifestyle and converting them to Christianity. Some of the Apaches did in fact take up rake and hoe, but the vast majority resisted. Not only did they resist, but they actively fought back, raiding everything in sight that was remotely Spanish. By the late 17th century, the Spanish had lost effective control of northern Sonora and Chihuahua to the Apaches. The Apaches had successfully wrested control of North Mexico. Not that it was even ever their desire to do so. This wasn't single accidental victory, however. The Apaches continued to hold off the Spanish for another 2 centuries. It wasn't that the Apaches had some secret weapon that was unknown to the Incas and to the Aztecs. Nor had the Spanish army lost its mind. No, the Apache defeat of the Spanish was all about the way the Apaches were organized as a society. The Apaches persevered because they were decentralized. And explain to writer this leaderless organization's power as it is. We look for hierarchy all around us. Whether we are looking at a Fortune 500 company, an army, or a community, our natural reaction is to ask, who is in charge? This book is about what happens when there is no one in charge. It is about what happens when there is no hierarchy. You didn't, there will be disorder, even chaos, but in many arenas, a lack of traditional leadership is giving rise to powerful groups that are turning industry and society upside down. In short, there is a revolution raging all around us. Decentralization has been lying dormant for thousands of years. But the advent of the internet has unleashed this force, knocking down traditional business, altering entire industries, affecting how we relate to each other, and influencing world politics. The absence of structure, leadership, and formal organization, once considered as a weakness, has become a major asset. Seemingly chaotic groups have challenged and defeated established institutions. The rules of game have changed. And also they give the example of music and movie industries against peer-to-peer networks. For example, they win all legal procedures against Napster, etc., etc. When they start, they lose, it was 25%. It win every case, and it push the peer-to-peer networks to be more decentralized. Then now their lose is up to 7,500 their gain. And also they explain 8 principles of decentralization in the book. Concern us. 1, when attacked, the decentralized organization tends to become more centralized. It is more decentralized, like peer-to-peer networks, like Wikileaks, like Anonymous, etc. It is easy to mistake a starfish for a spider. And an open system doesn't have central intelligence. The intelligence is spread throughout the system, like Apaches. Okay? There is no intelligence about Apaches because 4 Apaches came together. Just simultaneously, they decided to attack there. Okay, there's no intelligence at all. And also, if you attack the Apaches somewhere, and the whole Apache communities, by rumors, by memetic, know about it. An open system can easily mutate. The centralized organization sneaks up on you. As industries become decentralized, overall profits to decrease, as we know about the movie sector or publishing sector or music sector. Put people into an open system and they will automatically want to contribute as the open software movement and etc. When attacked, centralized organizations tend to become even more centralized. As United States intelligence agencies, it was 6 agencies before 9/11, and after 9/11, whole agencies was under the umbrella of NSA. Okay, and for a particular database, before it was 200 people get access, and after this change happened, it was 30,000 people get access to all thing. And why Bradley Manning took this Cablegate link. And when attacked, the decentralized organization tends to become even more open and decentralized. It's very important for us. And also, another point of reference is TAZ, Temporary Autonomous Zone of Hakim Bey. It's a very interesting concept and defines nomadic opposition zones temporarily, and it moves, which preambulates in the networks and acts in creating temporary autonomous zones. A kind of rhizomatic network, decentralized, deterritorialized structure, a knowledge guerrilla who creates continuously temporary autonomous zones of liberty, like autonomous, like a lot of activist organisms, and so on. Then it's a kind of network guerrilla and a kind of Viet Cong who use networks instead of tunnels. Another one concept is very important is rhizome of Deleuze and Guattari and Mille Plateau. It's a kind of image of thought, as Deleuze explained it, and based on botanical rhizome concept that apprehends multiplicities. So a kind of rhizomatic thing they use to explain the theory of and research that allows for multiple non-hierarchical entry and exit points in data representation and interpretation. In 1,000 plateaus, they oppose it to then arborescent conception of knowledge, hierarchical one, etc., which works with dualist categories and binary choices. A rhizome works with planar and trans-species connections, while an arborescent model works with vertical and linear connections. Their use of orchid and the wasp is taken from biological concept of mutualism, in which two different species interact together to form a multiplicity, thus the unity that is multiple in itself. And the principles of rhizome is very important for us too. 1 and 2, principles of connection and heterogeneity. Any point of rhizome can be connected to anything other and must be, like Apaches, like peer-to-peer networks, like etc., etc. And principles of multiplicity. Only when the multiple is effectively treated as a substantive multiplicity that it ceases to have any relation to the one. And 4, principles of assigned rupture. A rhizome may be broken, but it will start up again on of its old lines or on new lines, and etc., like starfish. And 5 and 6, principles of cartography and decalcomania. A rhizome is not amenable to any structural or generative model. It's a map and not a tracing. That is a kind of metaphor and model for community activism, for example. As a model for culture, the rhizome resists the organizational structure of the root tree system. It shares causality along chronological lines and looks for the originary source of things, and looks toward the pinnacle or conclusion of those things. A rhizome, on the other hand, is characterized by ceaselessly established connections between semiotic chains, organizations of power, and circumstances relative to the arts, sciences, and social struggles. Rather than the narrative history and culture, the rhizome presents history and culture as a map or wide array of attractions and influences with no specific origin or genesis. For a rhizome has no beginning or end, it is always in the middle, between things, interbeing, intermezzo. For example, we can easily apply this model to the anonymous organization. Okay, it attracts people, and it's a kind of it attracts with semiotic chain, like mem, like a lot of them. Just it starts in 4chan with the memetic things, and no specific need of genesis or origin. Okay, it just happened. And master-slave dialectic, I will not enter in detail, but my presentation is is online, and I will give you the link. What interests in me, the master and slave dialectic, is a kind of, especially this one, yeah. In the answering relationship of lordship and bondage, furthermore, the bondsman through work and discipline, motivated by fear of dying at the hands of the master or lord, transforms his subservience into a mastery over his environment, and thus achieves a measure of independence, because he works, okay? Because his relationship with the nature or his environment is much more deepened than the master. And Koyev said, because of this, people are born and history began with this first struggle, which ended with the first master and slaves. A person is always either master or slave, and there are no real humans where there are no masters and slaves. History comes to an end, very famous end of the history things, when the difference between master and slave ends, when the master ceases to be master because there are no more slaves, and the slave ceases to be a slave because there are no more masters. And last one, it was it's Heidegger, Techne, Poesis and Praxis. And also I will not enter in detail because it's very complicated, as you know. It's critique of technology. It's always interests me. And he called technology like this: the manufacture and utilization of equipment, tools, and machines, the manufactured and use of these things themselves, and the social needs and ends they will serve, all belong what technology is. And also, it's a kind of revealing truth, technology. Okay? And also, it's a kind of bringing forth. Then it's aletheia, revealing, and poesis, it's a kind of bringing forth, and all to do with the praxis. What techne is, and he always said, we must transform technology what it really is, a techne supported by poesis and supported by aletheia. I always think the origin of crypto-anarchism, hacking, and etc. is a kind of this movement, this revealing of truth and kind of bringing forth something, and it's a kind of praxis, a social praxis, because praxis of information has a real impact on the world. It's a kind of social praxis. Then, up to now, from 2008, the kind of mutual learning process happened. For example, at first in relative brief history of Internet, Egyptian government shut down the Internet. And all mobile phone services, all voice and data communication through these channels, etc. At the night of 27 September 2011, all communication besides satellite communication, then they couldn't control. The country becomes a kind of dark hole on the global network up to 2 February 2011. We know that even a very brief cut to the internet can harm seriously one country's economy. In fact, OECD declared this cost near to $1 million. Then Gaddafi, Libya is engaging this strategy, same strategy, but they shut down the internet during the day and they opened during the night. Did this precaution works? Not exactly. Egyptian bypassed the shutdown using low-tech solutions, using decentralized networks built on internet fax bridge, ham radios, satellite phones, etc. The new kind of organization like Telecomics, Chaos Computer Club, and Anonymous empower the dissidents to use untraceable encryption technologies, and dissident information keeps flow through networks of people. Network theory they predicted that communication is basic to all kinds of social movements, especially the revolution, because break for a network, network perceives as an error, a mistake, then bypass it. And then we have two kind of things: new technologies of censorship, control, and oppression, and new counter technologies of participation, transparency, and privacy. And the new players in the game, the little brother, games with that. We can put the current landscape it's like this. For some time, we have been a transition period where conventional balances of various power struggles get crushed one after another as a result of the new communication technologies, superstructures, and emerging attitudes. And somehow, the heavy hand of the distinctly more powerful side does not necessarily mean a surefire victory over the lesser opponent. We get used more and more to the new concept of asymmetry. And consequently, it seems as if the battlefield is becoming increasingly leveled, and ever so, but not depending on the size and resources of the players. Lately, this can be also observed in case of operational communications, information gathering, surveillance, tracking, processing, dissemination of information and disinformation, social engineering, propaganda machination, and other similar activities. Yes, the center transforms, but with a caveat. Even if the power mechanisms themselves catch up with the realities of the day, as is imposed by the new technological milieu, and are forced, for example, to become more decentralized and distributed, they still take all the necessary measures, although the latest event proved that they were lagging far behind in that respect, to process information and govern centrally. Any nervous system is, by definition, central. Then networks, and the internet, especially with the corporate sides and infrastructure sides, is also at the same time decentralized, but also is super centralized. It's a very important thing to think about it. And also a half-hearted conformism. Unfortunately, even representative, deliberative, or even direct democracy mechanisms usually end up in overt or thinly veiled autocracies, or at best operate in the name pragmatism or realpolitik, sub rosa, dodging the accepted standards of governing. Individuals are left then, even if half-heartedly or disapprovingly, with little alternatives other than yielding to all kinds of manifestation of autocratic power building, as there is no reason to believe that this ancient and delicate power foci would give up their privileges in the new era depicted at all. Then we have dissidence. Probably since the dawn of mankind, the individual vis-à-vis the authorities has, however, to its disposal a very powerful and by nature an asymmetric tool to fight back: dissidence. Impromptu or organized, or whatsoever kind, dissidence is our vital source to create, that is, to patch up new realities and transcend beyond the given. And this creativity comes usually in the shadows of conflicts, tensions, cracks, disapprovals, inconsistencies, disharmonies, pains, derailments, implosions, you name it. Hence, Minerva's owl begins its flight only in the gathering dusk. An anatomy of dissidence. 2 simple points suffice to dissect the concept of dissidence. First, the right to act dissidently, rebelly, iconoclastically, unorthodoxly, is based on the right of the freedom of expression, Article 19, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Albeit physically an extremely teeny, limited space, the Hyde Park, is an omnipresent mega symbol of freedom of expression. Its blogosphere counterpart, the cyber park, must be established with the same resolution and vigor. And second, dissidence results in creativity, Minerva's all, out-of-the-box thinking, etc. The diagonally opposite concept, the statu quo, is on the other hand, have minimal utility, if ever. Then also, just after we developed this little brother, big brother concept, I know the title of book of Cory Doctorow. It's a novel, a roman, a very interesting roman. It's explained exactly what I try to explain here. Little brother and big brother thing. This is the new players in the game, in the dissidence game. Toward the near turn of the century, because of especially the internet and the potential for decentralization, it has been hatching all the way during its deployment. 2 unexpected and unsolicited new players emerged. First one is the anonymous and self-proclaimed leaker, like Wikileaks, like Bradley Manning, the little brother watching back the big brother. It is the person who, somewhat more equipped than the whistleblowing role model of the past, like the times of Esberg, etc., Pentagon dossier, etc., turns around asymmetrically the intelligence and surveillance mechanisms against the authorities and make use of the same dissemination platforms, which are used by the big brother for purposes of some deliberate dissidence. Second player is the lurker, usually a community platform of the scientists, technologists, technocrati on the net, against self-proclaimed for promoting and facilitating leakers to do their job in a safe and secure environment. The lurker depends on dusk computing, not exactly dark computing, but dusk computing, distinct from malware or dark computing, which compromise various technologies and communities such as Chaosbox, Tor, Freenet, Deep Web, Telecomics, Rebuild EU, etc. The latter two I will explain after. A group of agents as a method to interact with the European Union and to direct the Union towards a more open society, etc. And today, Joseph Turner has a more effective toolbox for his disclosures. But the ultimate player and the star of the show is the transformed public flash power. Thanks to the memetics, it can emerge spontaneously and seemingly out of blue for a cause, becomes visible, makes an impact, and vanish back to into the desk from which it extracted its life energy and was invigorated into existence. Then the big brother, some example, Egyptian internet shutdown, deep package inspection, real-time internet tracking, and a lot of rumors about the Egyptian and Syrian police tracking the opponents, especially through the social networks, decryption of advanced crypto algorithms using quantum computing and identity tracking, breaking anonymity, etc., etc. The other side, invisible internet projects of little brothers, is I2P networks instead of peer-to-peer networks, because peer-to-peer networks is traceable, I2P networks is untraceable. With maximum security and protection of anonymity, Freenet, Darknet, Deep Web, this is a kind of webs in the web, and virtualization, data heaven, Chaosbox, Black Troll, Ultimate Chaosbox, Cypherspace, Tor, PGP, Pretty Good Privacy, Shields, and etc. For example, I was in China three times. I always use some shields to get through the internet, to get some information, etc. It's untraceable, and they even don't know they use shields and etc. Then Little Brother used two technologies against Big Brother, initially developed by him: dissemination of dissident information, encryption technologies. This technology, normally used by the Big Brother to hide and protect its own secrets, is turned now against him, helping the dissident to remain anonymous. In the 90s, especially after 1994, it was a huge battle to get encryption technologies like Pretty Good Privacy outside of the US. Okay? And it happened, and after that, this crypto-anarchism things came. The unsolicited and unexpected player to people is equipped with these technologies offered by Little Brother. And also, for example, the rise of activism from 2009 up to now is totally visible. It's Operation Tunisia, Operation Egypt, Goya, Italy, Libya, HB Gary, Venezuela, Wisconsin protest, Bank of America, emails dumped, Operation Sony, DDoS, Sony PlayStation Network offline, etc., etc. LUSEC, Anonymous, Operation India, Yemen, Op Turkey, against internet censorship, etc., etc. And last one, the internet blackout, internet strike, and Black March. And telecomics is a very interesting concept. It's a very clear example of lurker. Calls themselves socio-cybernetic jellyfish cluster, kind of starfish, but instead of a jellyfish. They just came us with an European Union project. Okay? We rebuilt EU, created by a group of agents as a method to interact with the European Union and to direct the Union towards a more open society. Telecomics has been a consultative body for the implementation of IPRED, telecommunication regulations, the European Telecoms package, and various other laws. Telecomics is also involved in helping dissidents in Syria, Iran, Egypt, China, Tunisia, etc. Telecomics is the name used by the word Rebuild and Telecomics. Rebuild is a collaborative project used to propose and discuss laws as well as to collect information about politics and politicians. The Telecomics is an operative body that executes shams and proposals presented by the Rebuild. And also cluster come to conclusion that there are mainly two methods to guarantee free speech. The first method is to work with lobbyism against politicians in the European Union and the respective leaders of the member nations in order to help them with the legislative process. The other method to guarantee free speech is to use encryption, which was the reason why the Telecomics Crypto Munitions Bureau was formed. The first method was a very long time the primary modus operandi of Telecomics. Then Telecomics serves to offer its practice and process as tools for other classes of activists to freely use. These tools come in the form of tutorials, manuals, collaborative performances, which are inclusive to all interested in participating and receiving open creative inspiration towards releasing ideas. The spirit of collaboration is also strongly shared to hypersensitive interactions that prioritize emotional ideas such as law of creative communication and playful, intelligent fun, etc. As such, Telecomics, IRCocracy, they use always IRC channels to discuss anonymously. The Friendocracy serves to welcome and nurture all those venturing into its association for refreshment, playfully energetic camaraderie, and spontaneous serious dedication to engaging with vitality important trends and issues as soon as they arise. Telecomics, the Crypto Munitions Bureau. Then the change happened. Authorities change. governance, accountability, transparency, globalization, interconnection, decentralization, massive real-time information processing capabilities, massive real-time surveillance, total surveillance space, total CCTV space, all street facilities, buildings, elevators, etc., schools, etc., and objectification, e-government, no need for human intermediaries during transactions, mechanization, call centers, no human managers available, and also individual change, extended existence in the cyberspace, accounts, passwords, avatars, exposures, socializing, massive real-time information access, communities, connectivity, flash mob formation, mobility, and also platforms change. Conventional media gives way to the internet media, citizen journalism, real-time dissemination, mobility, convergence, cloud computing, centralization tendency, and complexity of maintenance of technology-based, interconnected, but still insular micro-worlds is too difficult to overcome. Then our hypothesis is there will be no clear winner ever. Then there is no end of the history. However, there will be a never clear winner in this tug of war between dissidents and surveillance parties. Basically, it is just another escalation game. Compromises. Is this really possible? One thing is indisputable. Authorities need an appetite for more surveillance in the name of public good. It's clearly a stifling threat for the individual. However, another development is the asymmetric power gained by the individual on the seemingly leveled battlefield will be probably not welcomed by the authorities. The only solution to this problem is then to make a compromise and accept a mutually coordinated supervision of the stifling and tolerating mechanisms, subject, of course, unavoidably to applicable jurisdiction. Sorry. For example, we need jurisdiction about cloud computing. Yesterday I little explained it, because cloud computing is a very centralized thing, etc., and we have no real regulation of it. The inevitable future landscape. Then, ultimately, technologically, everything will be a single system, total convergence, even if balkanized at national levels. It seems, as stated above, the single system cannot be allowed, as a matter of fact, to exist outside the national, international jurisdiction, as the UN threat shows us. On the other hand, the extreme and fine structured monitoring capabilities are too dangerous to be left to the authorities. The only solution is shared governance of the monitoring process, money monitoring, and additionally an allowance must be made for incognito activities. Traditional mechanisms allow them to secrecy of the votes, secret ballot, etc. Probably, however, the alter-central effort, alter monitoring, a kind of futuristic watchdogging, and tolerated incognito activities will be not the only game in the town. It will be extremely difficult to stop individuals or communities to operate in the dusk, incognito, and also dusk computing and black computing, the people abusing the system for their own interest, will always exist. Then this formula gives us a kind of dusk in the future of the next thing. What can happen? A kind of NGS, non-governmental system, a virtual, unchartered non-governmental system is emerging. The leaker, prosection, the lurker, jurisdiction, and the public flash power, execution, enforcement, constitute a virtual, unchartered non-governmental system. After all, unsolicited players will create an unchartered system, and what else? A sign-off mechanism is self-defeating. Hacking is another kind of dissident counterbalancing mechanism, however. There, the prosecution, jurisdiction, execution tasks are delivered in the dark by a single entity, which is obviously more controversial. It must be noted that an NGS is not an anti-governmental in the sense of eliminative or deflationary approach to government mechanisms. It's not a non-government, non-existence of government. It is simply society's another venue of organization, as is the state government itself, in the overall power sharing and wielding game. Not quite an NGO. Under the increasingly centralized governmental state powers of the 20th century, NGOs worked hard to counterbalance them, even if to a limited extent. However, in the light of rather the contemporary super-centralization as enabled by the state-of-art and radically enhanced control, surveillance and manipulation technologies that are available to the national states and other international power mechanisms, a different kind of decentralization effort is needed. Indeed, the mission statement remains the same as in the case of an NGO, watchdogging and counterbalancing the government. But the NGS, by its very nature, is amoebic and anonymous. Therefore, it evolves. It is a self-emerging, spontaneous formation, rather being a deliberately founded initiative, into an uncharted system. The fact that some parts of this formation may become publicly visible as a closed organization, e.g. Anonymous, or Wikileaks proper, as opposed to the Wikileaks ecosystem, deep system is invisible, does not defy its essential feature, being an uncharted virtuality operating in the dusk. The powers in the dusk, then, now, can the powers that be challenged by the powers in the dusk? As the power that we get darker, it is inevitable that the epicenter of the democracy game gets drawn into the penumbral. Consider, for example, the stunning escalation of drone deployment. It's a very new threat. A lot of drones happen in the United States, in France, in the United Kingdom, etc. Sorry. Then consider, for example, the stunning escalation of drone deployment as a riskless kind of destructive war technology. Here the point is that, as the ground control station is not located at the battlefield on enemy soil, there is no need to secure the legislative branch's approval to go to the war. Indeed, such operations are maintained by civil authorities rather than by military. Therefore, in this shadow politics, the powers in the dusk is the destined duel of the darker power that be. Interestingly, they also feed from the same matrix as their dual antagonists and thus constitute a cohabitating, mutually interacting system, as in the case of the master-slave relation exposed by Hegel. A kind of duality hypothesis we need, a kind of as the duality hypothesis in the physics. Then more elaborate features are at work in this dual system. The duality hypothesis simply asserts that in any cohabited system of mutually interacting constituents, the focus of power force will be challenged by a reactive counter-element that operates at the same order of magnitude, and also feeds from the same matrix of resources. These two criteria are a necessary condition for the survival of the original power force, as their absence would otherwise lead to an impossible positive feedback mechanism, readily exhausting the available resources of the matrix. In more practical terms, and in familiar context, this phenomenon is called the escalation game. In the case of contemporary super-centralization and its reactive dual NGAs, they exploit the same information and communication technologies and media, the same visibility-invisibility conditions, cover operations, encryption, anonymous initiatives, etc., and the same appeal to the legitimacy permitted and enfranchised by the society's over dynamic contract. And also kind of peer review and mass review conferences can be utile. Such an emergence of the powers in the dusk can be seen as the participatory involvement of the mass in the grand process of exposing the truth, the right to know, and consequently the right to judge and act as facilitated by these newly created, discovered mass review mechanisms. Indeed, it is comparable to the well-known peer review mechanisms of a rigorously defined domain, the scientific discourse. The production of scientific knowledge and information about the reality and/or facts is usually entrusted to the science establishment, which has created in time the provisional peer review and the subsequent academic community's scrutinization mechanisms to ensure a relatively impartial, objective evaluation. This is much acceptable than the endorsement on and/or enunciation by a single authority. This was not the case until recently in the political sphere, because information is predominantly gathered, filtered, classified, and disseminated under strict governmental supervision. Although effective to a certain extent, the fourth estate recognition and influences is quite questionable. However, thanks to bidirectional opportunities offered by the contemporary technology, the rules of the game now seems to have at least the potential to change. Can you floodlight the dusk? Anonymity is a fundamental right. More than that, it is also a basic need for the survival of humanity. Therefore, the cyberpark, where people can gather, discuss, share, and interact anonymously without the fear of being hunted down, must be preserved and protected in the name of collective wisdom and public interest. As the several phases of the cyberpark, be it some instrument of open politics, citizen journalism, participatory democracy, etc., are legitimate developments de jure. These dynamics cannot be challenged by the center. Both the emergence and persistence of the dusks are, as a consequence of the duality hypothesis, a necessary outcome of internal conditions, tensions that will almost always follow any new positioning of the power that be at the some escalated level of the game. No, it cannot be floodlighted. Then the next thing. The indispensable jump of the escalation game to the cyberspace can be interpreted as the natural consequences of humankind's insatiable appetite for extending its territory, and it seems it has never been short of opportunities in this next thing game. It has been exploring and conquering the planet since the 15th century. In the second half of the 20th century, the near space and the cyberspace were new targets of interest. Probably the interplanetary space is the next in line for the next and subsequent centuries. However, the cyberspace has a special status, as it also, concomitantly, the realm of the extension of the species Homo sapiens itself. Thus, it has far-reaching existential implication for the individual and social essence and day-to-day practical organization of social life. By the way, as goes the appetite, in accordance with the duality of hypothesis, the extension or expansion of the theater does not matter at all. The game and the rules remain almost the same. It is only the bar that gets raised. Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Anna, for the presentation. I'm interested in your idea of decentralization, because I think is a extremely kind of central. Decentralization, which I think it's the core of your presentation. No, it's an extremely important concept.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, because decentralization is also part of a neoliberal strategy. Mm-hmm. Creating from the fragmentation And you touch upon this point, which I think is extremely interesting, the fact that it's true, neoliberalism in a way tried to decentralize, but at the same time is extremely
super centralized.
Mm-hmm. So I wonder if you could articulate a bit more about this contradiction that is inherent in the term decentralization, because yes, definitely it's extremely important and can be a source, has potentialities, but at the same time it's exactly a strategy that neoliberalism is used.
Yeah.
So,
it's a very interesting question, and this is the core nature of the internet. It's decentralized, and also it's kind of no boundary, no national boundaries, global, and also it's real time. It's keep flowing. You cannot stop it. Okay, but also there is another aspect of the internet. We can explain with the network theory a little bit. And also it is super centralized because of the physical infrastructure of it. Okay? And also corporatist side of the internet. Even in the beginning, DARPANET, etc., it was a military project. Okay? It was decentralized because you cannot shut down the decentralized thing. It was a defensive mechanism for the United States Army to put the network as decentralized. But when it comes to global, okay, the power mechanisms needs to centralize more and more and more this thing, and create the centralized, very centralized islands in the net. Okay. And cloud computing is ultimate centralizing things of the internet, for example. It's a very important development. Then this contradiction also came from the contradictory nature of the networks. Okay, for example, in the network there is collectivities, collective behavior, but also competitiveness. It's competition and cooperation thing. It's an antagonistic thing to the internet. Otherwise, there is no internet at all. You have, for example, user labor. If it's here, Burak Arıkan developed the concept. User labor is very important with the Web 2.0, user-generated content, etc. But also, there is user commodity. For Facebook, for example, all of us, we are commodities, okay? They sell us to the advertisers and etc., etc. And between that, there is prosumer concept, it's very tricky. And also, there is colonization of cooperation by the competition, like teamwork, for example. Okay? Teamwork is a kind of colonizing concept of business. There is always this antagonistic tension in the network. Then why it is also at the same time very decentralized and also it's super centralized. For example, the FBI get an operation against LUSEC. Okay, LUSEC is down because it's a centralized movement. There is some leader, and etc., etc. Anonymous is not down. Okay? For example, they kill Osama bin Laden, but Al-Qaeda is not down at all. But in the Al-Qaeda also, there is a huge decentralization and super centralization of money flows and etc., etc. They can control this super centralization thing, not Osama bin Laden, but the money flows and etc., this kind of things. In peer-to-peer networks, for example, is very decentralized, but also there is some centralized islands like mega upload, like etc., etc., a lot of things. But anonymous is a kind of franchising. Okay, you too, for example, get to do something and call them yourself anonymous. It's okay. Then it's a kind of idea. You cannot shut down Anonymous. It's impossible. You can shut down Wikileaks, for example, because it's decentralized and also super centralized. But you cannot shut down the idea of Wikileaks. We have a lot of multiplicity, like Wikileaks now, open leaks, trade leaks, and green leaks, and Indo leaks, and rule leaks, and Turkey leaks, etc. A lot of things. Okay, you cannot shut down the idea, and you cannot shut down the whole network. It's impossible. Now, I don't know if it's okay for explanation. Yeah, it's a very, very difficult concept, and we cannot easily explain that. Okay, it's a kind of it's a technological side of the thing. Okay, because of the infrastructure, because of all these DPI technologies and etc. You need to manage a network. Otherwise, you cannot manage. You need to create a kind of super centralization of the network to manage and secure it. Okay, DPI is normally it's a Benin technology to use that, but they took this Benin technology, the states, okay, United States for example, and use it in real-time surveillance. Yeah.
Thank you. Probably you're familiar with the work of Greg Egan.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a science fiction Australian writer who talks about the possibility of the future to download entire personas on the internet, achieving thus immortality.
Yeah.
So his solution would be of this kind, not biological, not biotech, but this. And I was wondering, and he says when this will happen, you know, revolutions will be like walking the parks.
Yeah.
In terms of bloodshed and everything. So I wonder how do you feel about that?
I think it's yeah.
Because you talked about Homo sapiens.
Yeah. 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 In the game of the next thing, I think there is a side of a kind of post-human future too. Not only interplanetary, etc., but also we will expand our bodies and our souls and etc. It's a very ancient concept in the philosophy and etc. Even in the Islamic philosophy, like Jabir ibn Hayyan, etc. They wanted to create a kind of super man as a prophet. Okay, it was very interesting in the 400 something. Then, of course, we will expand our selves to the cyberspace too, and also it already happened with this all these RFID chips, all this surveillance technology, and this battle, this escalating battle, will go to this new frontiers, because the corporations and the power mechanisms also get our bodies with all these RFIDs, all these surveillance technologies, and etc. And entering in the cyberspace like Ghost in the Machine. I love it. This Japanese thing. It will happen. It is at two sides: dissidents and police, big brothers, and etc. And I think we will go there. And I feel, I don't feel bad, because it's always interested me to expand myself to this kind of interconnectivity possibilities. I don't feel bad. And it will happen. We cannot stop it.
I wanted to ask you, made a comment that anonymity is a fundamental right. And I wanted to ask you where you are what are you drawing on in order to make that right?
Sorry?
Anonymity is a fundamental right.
Uh-huh.
You make the point after that it's necessary for the survival of humanity, and I think through your argument we can follow you on that point, that you see anonymity as being a necessity. But before that, in your presentation, you said it's a right, and I'm curious about that choice of word.
Yeah. I think anonymity is a fundamental right, and it was also, for example, even before the human rights concept. Okay, and it's a very powerful defense mechanism anonymity, and also it's a very powerful attack mechanism. Then you need anonymity because I think it is the soul, it is the spirit of the community. Anonymity, dissolving yourself into the soul to community as an anonym entity. Okay, and also. Of course, there is a lot of side rights we can attach to them, because if you consider anonymity as a basic human right, then you should consider that you cannot track me, okay? You cannot hunt me for my speech, for my ideas, and etc. And ideas and speech is a public commons. Also, then it can be anonym, totally anonym. And also, it's not only a right, but it's a need. It was always a need, anonymity. You need anonymity to protect yourselves. Okay? Otherwise, they hunt you down. It's very clear. It's a kind of war logic. Yeah.
Any other questions?
I'm just a really big fan of this term cyberpunk that you used, and this is a really nice way to kind of imagine some of those ideas. I was just wondering if you could elaborate on that concept a little bit more.
Yeah, this is a really Hyde Park, Side Park. We discussed with Deniz, we will call it Side Park, for example, without R, as a comparison to Hyde Park. It's a kind of real, virtual, global, and interactive and cyber park, of course. And we have to protect it. Otherwise, I think it's essential, it's vital to protect this idea of Hyde Park in the cyberspace. Why we need anonymity? Why we need this dissidence? Dissidence also is a right. Okay, dissidence was like anonymity is a basic human right. It was always before the human rights legal theories, before Hegel, etc. The human beings always use these rights to be dissident, to be anonymous, and get as a kind of ultimate public space a Hyde Park. Okay, without why John Perry Barlow said you are not welcome us to the governments. Okay, because in the Hyde Park governments and the power mechanisms are not welcomed at all. Okay, yeah, it's work to be developed, this concept. Sure.
Yeah, I think it has a really powerful kind of imaginary and visualization attached to it. That's really nice.
Thanks.
I still have a question about the mechanism of power that you described, and the examples with the Apaches. Well, it's sort of like a reason against binary thinking algorithm. And it made me think of another book of Deleuze and Guattari, Nomadism or the Horror Machine, in which, and in fact what you sort of propose there is it's a nomadic power within the paradigm of this stabilization that nation states brought about.
Yeah.
Ironically, 1848 was a sort of landmark for the consolidation of the nation
states. Sure.
Do you see this escalation as the escalation of the biblical story of Cain and Abel, which is the same thing, of the pastor versus the Yeah. I think this is a very interesting question. Thanks for that.
the similarities between 1848 and now is a kind of mechanisms of dissemination of ideas, memetics, and etc. Not the goal of the game. And with the goal of the game, there is also an escalation. It was nation state, and it's about 50 years we discuss about the end of the nation state. It's not ended yet. But the crisis of nation states, crisis of democracy, representative democracy, and etc., etc. But then it's obvious there is an escalation of that. Okay, we have after the Second World War, we have this international institutions. Okay, after United Nations, World Bank, and ITO, and etc. And we have these multinational companies as no real legislation at all. And also we discussed a lot with the innovation and scientific and technological advances. The cities, the big cities, becomes hubs of innovation. Then perhaps we will have a kind of city-states, and also network states like European Union, like Latin American Union, perhaps in Asia Pacific, or if Russia comes up to the European Union, a kind of Eurasian Union, Mediterranean Union, etc. The concentration of powers. Then this is the new escalation, I think. And then there is a very important semblance with 1984, 48, pardon, and now, because it's a kind of sign of deep paradigm shift. Yeah. A dissemination of dissident information was very powerful at this moment. 48. It was very interesting. Why Paris Commune has happened, and also why the idea of Paris Commune is now here in Occupy Wall Street and assemblage, public assemblage, etc. This kind of things. Yeah, this is the same idea. I think. Occupying.
Okay, if we don't have any other questions, we can have a break. Yeah, let's have a break. Let's have a break, and we'll come back and hear from Caleb Waldo and Matteo Pasquale. Come back. Bye. Thank you, Özgür, for your presentation.
I thank you.